Hey, what's up guys and welcome back to Anime King, and today I'm going to be giving you part 28 of What If Naruto's a Badass Genius. Remember to get this one to 200 like as usual, share this to all of your friends on your social media platform. And also guys, go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto Was a Osusuke King and enjoy that guys. And over on Anime King 2, I post a new episode of What If Naruto was banished and got a supernatural ability. Go ahead and check out that and enjoy as well. I also post a new episode of What If Aizuna Uchiha was Naruto's ancestor. So go ahead and check out that and enjoy as well. And remember, if you're new and this is the first time you hear my voice and you enjoy the videos on both Anime King and Anime King 2, go ahead and click that red subscribe button and become part of the Anime King family. And thank you for all of your help and support. And remember to comment down below and tell me if you're new. I'll be replying and talking back to all of you. So without further ado, what do you say we begin this new episode? Start the intro.
I think the girls with their nails done now. Girls with their nails done. I think the girls with their
So, the last time we left off, Naruto spoke to Sai, as he told him that he and the others should continue the hunt for Orochimaru and report anything they find back. As Sai told Naruto that he need to go and talk to Ino, because she found out about the news what happened between him and the Mikoto woman, and she has been taken to drinking a lot. As Sai then headed off, as Naruto went to a local bar, where the place was pretty run down as he saw the drunk Ino, as she was surrounded by 3 men, as Naruto came there and disposed of the 3 of them. Luckily Sai had someone watching her, so if any case, they would not have taken advantage of her. As Ino just stared at Naruto as she asked him what the hell does he want, as she couldn't believe all this time he turned her down to go for that old hag. As she asked him what is wrong with her, because of her drunk induced state she kissed him and asked him if he didn't like that. But Naruto told her that the both of them are friends and that he didn't want to cross such boundaries with her, and because he didn't want to hurt her as well, he cared about her too much, as he take her out of that place. A month passed after that, as Naruto and Ino were walking down the street. Things have changed over the past month between his family and everything. His mother and Mikoto has non-stop talk about the baby, and his mother has even not watch over him when he is in a room with Mikoto anymore, as she usually came there to make sure nothing was going on, but now she trusts them enough. As that relationship was rather over, Yujito was still a bit bitter about everything that this woman was now in their life. She didn't like her really. But they will have to deal with it, as Naruto told Mikoto that he won't leave her behind, so he couldn't just throw her out in the cold like that, so he will stick by her side as well. Some time passed after that as Naruto and Tsunade were heading towards Kiri, as she decided to let Naruto alone be her bodyguard for this. What was she thinking? Even though the Akatsuki was dealt with, there were still other threats in the world, but people hadn't messed with her back then because of her reputation of a Sanin. But she was sure that the blonde could handle himself, and so would she. But she asked him why isn't he teleporting them to there, but he told her he'd never marked anywhere in Kiri, but he can teleport them to Wave, as he did that. Naruto was also worried about Sai. The month passed as he hadn't heard anything from Sai regarding Orochimaru intel, as the snake would probably capture Sai and want to find out information so he wouldn't kill him that quickly. So Naruto wanted done his business in Kiri so he can head back home and find out what is going on. When they arrive at Kiri, they meet the Mizukage as she was happy to see them here, as she asked if she could see Naruto in fighting, as she wanted to test him against one of her own. Some time passed as Naruto was in a field with Ao, as he told the man to get prepared to go to a hospital, seeing that they weren't putting much limiter on him, and they want to see what he's capable of, so he might as well show off a bit. So yeah guys, that was basically the last part we left off. You guys can switch across the place and check it out for yourself. So what do you say we start this new episode? Ao stood in front of Naruto as Naruto raised up his right hand and waved it twice. Small gusts of winds picked up around them, but nothing happened. He was merely testing the wind around them. It wasn't as strong as in the other lands, meaning he'll have to use more of his chakra, but that wasn't a problem. A poof appeared in his right hand and his sword was there, as he lunged towards Ao with his sword, cutting through the ground. As Ao pulled a kunai, wondering why is he driving his sword through the ground, as he pulled a kunai, bringing it in front of him, preparing himself for anything. As Naruto brought the sword up at the last moment, as Ao aligned his kunai but at the last second wind chakra came out of it. The wind-enhanced sword cut right through the kunai. As Naruto was doing that, a Rasengan was charging in his other arm. As he thrust it towards the man's head, Ayo quickly jumped back, as the wind sword cut through his clothes, not through his flesh. Naruto didn't attack again, he merely stood still as his Rasengan dispersed and the wind on his blade. "You're a sensor. Coupled with your Byakugan, you're really something else," Naruto said. "But you're not someone who fights on the front line, are you?" Ayo blinked. "How can you tell?" he asked. "I allowed my sword to touch the ground on purpose. So you want to test my concentration, my reflexes, and my senses. All three," Ayo said. "What I realized in a fight, it isn't always won by those with physical powers, but those who can use their head. You won't normally see me throwing jutsus for the sake of it, and I know a lot of them, but sometimes it's not really necessary," Naruto said. "Let me show you something," Naruto said. As his sword poofed away, he then speed through hand signs at an incredible rate. He then stopped doing hand signs. He held out his right hand, his open palm facing Ayo. Ayo's eyes widened as the Byakugan could see the invisible sword to the naked eye floating in front of Naruto's palm. There were at least 30 of them. They were double-edged and they were floating in front of him, made from pure wind. "I don't boast about my abilities, but I don't think there's anyone who manipulates the wind element at an extent that I can," Naruto said. "It isn't the first time that I've seen an ability like that," Ayo said. "However, truth be told, the wind affinities he's seen before was just advantage of blades and kunais, where a user add the wind to their blades and kunais to make it sharper and the wind at a deadly strike. This was different to him, but it was nothing really that shocking. The key word there is light," Naruto said. "Not seen something like this before, but I will show you I've never seen anything like this." The moment he said those words, 5 of the swords speed towards Ayo. They were moving at incredible speed, but they were not impossible to dodge. Ayo didn't try to dodge them because he didn't know what he was dealing with, as he held out a single hand sign and summoned water. But the moment the sword neared the water wall, they suddenly changed path. 2 went left and 2 went right, and the last one went up. Naruto snapped his finger and the swords multiplied in a blink of an eye. They got smaller in size, and that made them even more dangerous. Many blades surrounded him. Naruto waved his hand once more as the blade charged at Ayo, as they all tear right through him, but Ayo exploded in a puddle of water. But Naruto didn't appear shocked or concerned. Ayo appeared on Naruto's left side, dashing towards him, but Naruto didn't even look at him. Ayo was upon Naruto in seconds. He drove a hard punch towards Naruto's head. Naruto's left hand blurred to the side, waving a blast of wind as it moved. The wind slammed into the side of Ayo, knocking him to the front of Naruto. 6 blades behind Ayo speed through the air as they dig into his back and his knees, as he cried out in pain lying on the ground. Ayo cursed the blonde as blood started to pour out of his body. Naruto snapped his fingers, wind blades dispersed. "I didn't even need to move to do that." "Of course there are limits, and it cannot work on every opponent," Naruto said, as Ayo didn't say anything as he was too busy trying to stop himself from bleeding out to death. The wounds were not fatal to kill him, but if he kept bleeding, he would bleed to death. Tsunade stepped forward as she kneeled beside him, helping him with his wounds. Mei also cleared distance as her hands were folded across her chest with a curious look on her face. It takes time to cast a jutsu, and the concentration required must be high. After she analyzed the jutsu he had used, "I didn't think that you don't have to move when jutsu is activated. I think that you can't move. That would say why you say the jutsu cannot work on every opponent." Naruto smiled. "That's an interesting analysis, Mei." But Naruto didn't explain anything. He left her for that to conclude herself. "Are you satisfied?" Naruto asked. "Of course not," Tsunade said, answering for Mei. "You took a shortcut to the fight. I was expecting you to go around and throw around some fireworks. You said you have read my battle reports, so you should know I don't spend too much time in a fight unless the opponent is proven troublesome. If I get a chance to drop you down in the first move, I will take it. You should know I don't fight for the thrill of it. With such power, why not? People don't gain the chance to have that kind of power and use it for the thrill of it. I have to say I sometimes enjoy a good sparring session though," said Tsunade, as Naruto looked up in the sky before answering. "There are certain things I have limited myself from experiencing because of the dangers that can happen if I go through that. I have so many reasons to fight, or even cause destruction. I have a jutsu to do so, but I limit myself from using them because I know myself. Besides, I have learned that it isn't necessary for me to use force in every situation. Words are just as powerful, depending on who is saying them. Words can have a deep impact that jutsus cannot have." Tsunade stared at him for a couple of seconds before shaking her head. He was a strange person, but at least she was getting to understand parts of him and also getting along with him. Even with those thoughts though, she knew that there was a darkness in him. She wasn't the only one aware of that, and by the look of things, her new friend seemed to be aware of it as well. As she prayed for Konoha and the rest of the elemental nations that no one get a crazy thought to attack those close to Naruto, because he would become the devil itself. Later, Naruto didn't go around in the two mountains with the two Kages. As they went to talk, he decided to remain back and just look over the village in the mist. It was a good thing to study other humans in different environments. The people here was rather different from Konoha or any of the villages that he has come to witness. At least right now things are going well. He was getting closer into casting his shadow around the leaders of the elemental nations. If he could do that, he could manage the flow of things with everyone. Who are you thinking of killing? Mei asked, as she walked and sit next to Naruto, as he was on the rooftop of the Kage's tower alone. As Naruto simply looked over the village without saying anything to her. As a couple seconds passed, I will have you know my thoughts are not that bloody, he said. Well, not these days at least, he thought. Back then when his faith in humans were close to non-existence, he usually killed them for the sport of it. Those thugs, those humans that are nothing but pigs. Well, surprising, but I can understand. So, what was His Majesty thinking about, she asked. His Majesty? Naruto asked. I don't think I've done anything to gain that title, Mei. I will admit, I treat myself a lot better and behave in a different way. But there hasn't been anything I've done to see myself as a king. No, not yet, Mei said in a serious tone. It has all been in your thoughts up to now. I don't know much about you, but I can see it. You see yourself more than just a flawed human. Meaning, you're above humans. From what Snad has told me, I guess you have given yourself that position to stand over us because you're a king. And we are flawed creatures in front of your sight, and we must be shown to do what is right. You appear to talk a lot with Snade, but he didn't say anything more about that. Instead, he responded to her earlier question. I was thinking about other things. People, what most people see. Maybe your eyes are only seeing the border of this village, but for me, there is no limit. Every era in the elemental nations concern me. There may be lands I have no connection with whatsoever. What happened in them concern me same way. Maybe you're right, but I have to look at things like I have a superiority complex. I certainly don't see these other people as my subjects. Perhaps not, she said. We end up sorting up things with the fifth Hokage. I think what is left is just end up holding some formal negotiations. She said that he will complete those, but we have talked over everything. I guess that is one part done, Naruto said. Next he will have to deal with the Raikage, but he didn't deal with the man so well last time. What is the next part? Mei asked, curious. I need to have some existence removed from this world, and I will think about what to do next. You're thinking of killing some people, she asked. Is that the kind of path you want to follow, she asked him. I know what I've said, Naruto said, but don't take everything I say and apply it. I sometimes say whatever is on my mind, or just because I'm thinking it. In any case, this is really nothing, he said. Well, it doesn't compare to my past thoughts. Sometime I thought this world would be better, back those days, if there was just a couple of humans living in it. Mei lost all the color in her face for a moment there, as she was realizing what he was saying. Genocide. There were millions of people in this world, and with him saying a couple, that was a truly downsized. Well, if she had any doubts about the dark side of him, all of those doubts were now pushed through the window. He had another side, yes, a very dark, frightening one. Do you think a day will come when you will be my enemy? Mei asked in a curious tone. I don't know, but from the bottom of my heart, I hope such a day never comes. Me too, Mei said a smile. These are the moments. Me too, Naruto said, and nodded his head. You're the only one I can talk to freely. It's probably because I think about your history, growing up in this village, and you fighting to save your village from the bloody rain, and you having 2 Genkai yourself. A comfortable silence settled between them for a couple of minutes. The silence was broken by Snade. I was wondering where you would be, she said as she appeared. Naruto turned towards Snade, being here, sitting with a Mizukage. The talk was so lovely. We end up admitting, since Konoha and the Mist are getting along so well, we're going to be former allies. Why not throw in a marriage as well? Marriage? It wouldn't be such a bad thing, Mei thought. Snade blinked and stared at the Mizukage, as Mei smiled a bit too sweetly. Snade then turned to Naruto. You turned down a marriage between Temari, even after both village agreed to it. Temari was the one that cancelled that one, he said. I'm not an idiot. She cancelled it because you wanted it. If you didn't want it to be cancelled, you wouldn't have made her do so. Since Gaara didn't have a problem with you marrying his sister, he wouldn't have opposed. One would carry would be a beneficial one though. No, a beneficial one will be with the Tsuchikage granddaughter, Naruto said. As Tsunade blinked, were you joking about the marriage to the Mizukage? You were? May asked. But Naruto did not respond to any of their questions. When would you like to depart? He asked. May shook her head. Why did you cancel your marriage with Temari? She asked. She understood the background and the reason behind the marriage. The Sand participation in the invasion and the death of Hiruzen. The Sand and Konoha would be at each other's throat if something was not in the middle, and that was his and her marriage, but he cancelled it. Why? There had to be a bigger reason on why he did it. Tsunade seemed to have the same thought, but she wasn't interested or worried about it. You only understand the business part of things, he said. An arrangement between me and Temari was made a long time ago between my mother and the 4th Kazekage. Of course it was different back then. We would only end up married if we liked each other. But things changed with the invasion. In any case, I cancelled the marriage because it's no longer necessary. I don't need to have any. Think over Gaara. For him to see Konoha clear motives. Besides, Temari do not love me. It is safe to say these days she only tolerates me. That isn't to say we have a problem, all is well. The marriage is not necessary and we both understand that. May tilted her head to the side. There was something he was not telling her. Or perhaps she was just thinking too much. No, she wasn't. He was a different kind of person. You cannot be thinking too much. What are you not telling me? She asked seriously. As Naruto stared at her for a moment, a little surprised by the tone that she just used. He never expected her to force a thing out of him. A couple of things, Naruto said with a shrug. As Naruto didn't say anything, as he just looked up. As May was a different person. She was a kind, a little manipulated, sweet woman who went through a lot to gain her village back on the feet. Could he trust her with his thoughts? Could he trust her with his planning? That made him just laugh, as he couldn't hide it for too long. It was too funny, as a little smirk broke out. Is there something I'm missing? What's funny? She asked. I was just thinking about something, he said, and that ended right there. I have an understanding with Gaara, a rather mutual understanding. My family is quite fond of him, Naruto said. And we used to have some good days when we were younger. Raza tried by all means to get our families to become one. Of course he had his intentions, but everything was laid in the open, so we always were honest with each other. My mother even treated the Sand siblings as her children. The invasion nearly ruined things though, and if it wasn't for those memories, I would have killed them all. May blinked at the simple way he said it. Was there really no value to the life of a person in front of him? She didn't understand or know everything about him, but there was certainly a dark past there. She decided to focus on the siblings. I'm surprised someone like you, who has so much potential to be a menace. With a past like that, if you were not a Jinchuriki, I would have wondered, where did you got this overshadow darkness inside of you? I think I have too much control over my emotions. I cannot show such negative emotions, he said. I didn't say you can't, but I'm sure everyone has spent much time around you can feel this bottomless, creeping pit that is full of darkness right inside of you. You make it sound that bad, Naruto said. But for now, there's a snake I must kill. Why are you so fixated on killing Orochimaru? May asked. She knew how evil the man was, but she wanted to know why he was so fixated. His thoughts regarding Orochimaru were clear to her. It was nothing more than bloody murder. He's just one of the two people I hate. Besides, he killed the 3rd Hokage. Despite our schemes, the old man was someone I liked, Naruto said. There have also been developments in my life that make it hard for me to know that he's still out there alive. As she wasn't interested to know who the second person was, but it seemed like he didn't want to talk about it as she changed the subject. Shall we discuss the stone situation before you leave? As Naruto stared at her, he merely nodded. Time skip. Konoha, Hokage's office. Tsunade stared at the blank paper in front of her, thinking about what she should write, as it was a clone that brought her back as the clone was in front of her. She looked at him. You never told me why you remain in Kiri. A few things to settle, he said. Beside from that, I have come here to get Ino and Sasuke. As part of her train, she needs to follow when Orochimaru is paid a visit. Sai has been following a trail trying to get a lock on Orochimaru. You can leave with Sasuke, but not with Ino, said Tsunade in a tone of finality. I doubt that I have to worry about you and Sasuke, but Ino is not on that level. Even if she's just going to be watching, there's a danger of her getting caught up in things. No matter what you say, I cannot put her life in any danger. Naruto raised the eyebrow and considered giving reasons, or tried to be a little forceful, but he could not force to irritate the woman. He was building a fine relationship with her. There was no reason to screw that over. He could let this pass for now, but if she continued to do things like this... As you say, Naruto said. That caught her off guard as she was expecting him to argue back. Seeing her surprise, Naruto spoke, "I'm not going to fight you over everything. I'm not the boss, just a shinobi with ambition. Bring back Orochimaru's head," she said. "That isn't too much to ask, right? I doubt there will be anything left once we're done." 2 days later, it never occurred to Naruto that Obito would try to show up in front of him. No, he always thought that he had to hunt the man down to bring him to his court for judgment. The Uchiha wasn't irrelevant by any means. It was a person that Naruto wanted to strangle to death for what he did. "Uzumaki Naruto," Obito said calmly. He was sitting on a tree branch, his feet swinging slowly. "What did you say to Nagato? How did you and Jiraiya manage to turn Nagato against me?" It was apparent that Nagato had betrayed him along with Konan, but for the moment he wasn't doing anything because he wanted to understand what truly happened. He never thought that Nagato would end up betraying him, but it has happened. But even so, he still had the Bijus with him. The only thing he didn't have control over was the Gedo statue. For that to happen, he had to take the Rinnegan from Nagato. It won't be simple, but he can't wait too longer. The longer he waited, the more complicated it would become. Naruto took a single step forward. As he looked up at the man that he hated, it was hard to hold back his emotions. He shook his head. He needed to calm himself before he did something stupid. "Nothing that you need to know," Naruto said. "I'm a little surprised though that you were able to use Nagato, despite all of his power. Well, you're not completely useless yourself." Obito looked down Naruto for a moment, sizing him up. Naruto's strength was something not even Zetsu could clearly see at the level. There was flashes of brilliance every now and then, but he has never given it his all in every fight. It was something that made Obito worry, because he could not judge Naruto's power on a single scale. He could not determine the amount of effort he will need to deal with the blonde Uzumaki. "I didn't think that Nagato would betray me. It made me curious what you say to him. But it doesn't look like you're going to tell me anything." At the moment though, there's still time to do damage control. To subdue you, we don't have to fight. Nagato is the only opponent I will fight if he continues to follow this traitorous path. As Naruto narrowed his eyes dangerously at that moment. If this man was saying that he didn't have to fight and get what he want, then that meant he had other means to get what he wanted. And this other way, Naruto didn't know what he was talking about, and that made him uncomfortable. "I know you're capable of a lot of things, and you think you can take me on," said Obito, "but you have one weakness. Your heart. It is true to say that you tolerate people living around you. People. In your group. But for other people, from what I have observed, you don't care a single bit about them. However, you love your mother very much, and now, you're going to be a father. If you value those people, in your small tiny group, stay away from Nagato." When he finished saying that, the man disappeared in a swirling vortex. About 2 hours later, Sasuke was sitting on a tree branch as he was waiting for Naruto. He has been waiting for a couple of hours now, as Sasuke was getting rather irritated. His chakra was not being hid. Naruto should find him quick enough, and Sasuke wanted to face someone as strong as a Sannin. Naruto was going to take all the fun away the last time he went by himself, and he didn't fight Orochimaru. He just confirmed that there was a Uzumaki near. Sasuke then turned his head to the side as he could feel Naruto coming, but the chakra was oozing out in a dangerous way. Naruto always hid his chakra. Was this real Naruto? Only natural born sensors could tell at the wealth of power Naruto have under his belt. He has power, but he has never showed it off to people. When Naruto landed on the tree branch next to him, Sasuke raised an eyebrow. Naruto was releasing a malicious aura that made him rather nervous. Naruto never yet allowed his killing intent to leak, as Sasuke wondered what the hell happened. "You're late," Sasuke said, "but concerned that you're leaking your killer intent. I could say something come along the way." But what could be to get the blonde work up like this? If it was something with his mother's safety, Sasuke could understand, but the blonde never showed off his emotion on his face. And now Sasuke could tell he was pissed. "I met an intolerable cockroach on the way." For the first time since appearing, his eyes met with Sasuke's. "You're in good condition. We're going to do battle. If you're not fully healed, you can turn back. I'll be fine today. I wouldn't have a problem crushing a trash." "What happened?" "This is unlike you, Naruto," Sasuke asked. Naruto calmed himself. "I came across a certain Uchiha. I guess I had never told you about this, but you should know, since you spend much time with your brother. The one who recruited my brother to the Akatsuki, and who is responsible for the Kyuubi rampage," Sasuke asked. Sasuke knew about that. His brother had told him everything about the Uchiha massacre. "But this isn't what we should focus on," Naruto said. "Sai is currently on a mission to rescue Karin. She's in one of Orochimaru's hideouts, and we should get rid of his snake." As Sasuke gave a wicked smile, he was looking forward to a bloody dance of death. Ever since his battle with Naruto, he hasn't had anything challenging, and now that his knee is completely healed, he wanted to fight the Sannin. Sasuke jumped from the tree and landed on the ground. "What are we waiting for?" he asked. As he started to move forward. "You're going the wrong direction," Naruto said. Orochimaru is within the hideout, an hour from here, to your left. Sai said he has been conducting some experiments around this place. It is much easier to kidnap people from a land that doesn't have a shinobi villages protecting it. As Naruto then turned to his left and leaped off, as Sasuke followed behind him. Time skip, the two have been hopping from tree branch to tree branch for a while now. Naruto then came to a stop. We're here, he said. Perhaps it's my mind playing tricks on me, but I can sense a snake nearby. Before Sasuke could say anything, Orochimaru spoke. That's because the snake is here, he said. You're late. I was waiting for you. It has been a few days now. As Orochimaru was leaning against a tree trunk, his hands folded across his chest. He was standing very calmly, an aura of confidence seeping out of him. Sasuke's Sharingan instantly flared to life after seeing a snake. With how good of a sensor he had become, he thought that Orochimaru couldn't sneak up on them like that, but he did not sense a snake until he spoke. But it didn't matter. This was just perfect anyway. They didn't have to waste energy destroying the hideout and drawing him out. With him out in the open, they could just get it over with. There were a couple of things that had to be sorted out. Naruto responded calmly to Orochimaru's question. It appeared that you are aware that Sai was watching you, and you managed to get your message across. What did you expect? I can smell one of Danzo's toys from a mile away, Orochimaru said. Why did you let him get away, Naruto said. Orochimaru shrugged. There was no fun in killing him, and he had no value as a useful experiment. Besides, I was waiting for you. I have been itching to meet you again, Naruto. Last time I had to leave the party a bit early because I had other engagements. But I am now fully prepared to entertain you. As Naruto just stared at Orochimaru as he had a grin on his face. The snake was smiling too proudly and he was oozing out confidence. There had to be something he had done. Last time he ran away, but no, he was ready to dance. There was something. Naruto then leaped off the tree branch as he started to walk towards Orochimaru. He then disappeared. He appeared in front of Orochimaru in a blink of an eye. Orochimaru didn't look surprised on seeing Naruto move so fast, as Orochimaru had a wide grin on his face, with two Sharingan eyes in both eye sockets. Naruto showed no surprise in seeing those eyes, so that was the reason he was acting so confident. Naruto pointed his index finger at Orochimaru's chest as he fired off a winged bullet, but Orochimaru blocked it with a crystal, a pink crystal shield. Interesting, Naruto said. I never thought that you would implant such power within you, Orochimaru. But then again, you're no longer qualified to be called a human. Orochimaru merely chuckled, as he didn't care what Naruto said about him. Who was this blonde to him? Naruto was just a brat he wanted to use for a test run for his new power. He didn't care about anything else. There was no lack of confidence in his part. He was sure he could face these two just fine. I'm not surprised, Orochimaru said. I'm surprised about your killing intent though. I have never felt such a sinister intent coming from you, Naruto. You have always been controlled who hardly show his intentions. But now you're clearly showing that you want to murder me. Do you hate me that much? Is it because I killed the third Hokage? Naruto shrugged. At this stage, it doesn't matter. I can only answer a question you want to know. If you think you will be alive by the end of the day. Orochimaru's smirk just got wider. He didn't get a chance to say anything as Sasuke appeared. As Sasuke was slightly above the ground, as Chidori flashing towards Orochimaru's chest. Orochimaru was quick to react to the attack. His Sharingan may be implanted, but it still worked like any other Sharingan, as he enlarged his crystal shield to block Sasuke's jutsu. As Naruto's finger fired off another wind bullet that cracked the crystal shield, as Sasuke Chidori then break right through it. Orochimaru may have sensed Naruto's wind attack, but he could not avoid it as it teared through his left shoulder. The speed of the attack was just a blur that not even the Sharingan could shot fast enough. He didn't make a pain sound or even twitch when Naruto's jutsu pierced right through him. He just brushed it aside and turned his attention on Sasuke's lightning jutsu. He didn't wait for the jutsu to hit him, he simply crumbled into dust. Sasuke dispersed his jutsu as he landed gracefully by Naruto's side. I can't believe even someone as you has a hands on the Sharingan, Sasuke said. Turned around to face Orochimaru, who materialized behind the two. There was nothing but disgust in Sasuke's tone. Well, Naruto does has a Sharingan. It might not be implanted, but he has them in his possession. And I'm not talking about Shisui's eyes. These are the eyes of someone very close to you, Sasuke. Naruto narrowed his eyes. It seems like Kabuto is very smart in gathering intel for you, Orochimaru. He then rained down on his killing intent. He was going to focus and fight good, with his emotion bubbling over. Sasuke, this must not take long. You can go all out at any moment, and do not worry about getting me caught in the crossfire. Just attack and I will watch my back, Naruto said, as he dashed towards Orochimaru. Orochimaru merely watched as Naruto neared him in seconds. His Sharingan could see the movements clearly. Even though the blonde was truly fast, he could see him this time around. Besides, this was his first time fighting with the Sharingan against such powerful shinobi. He could test his limits. When Naruto's feet touched right in front of Orochimaru, he blurred away as Naruto was behind him. But before he could fully turn to face, the blonde Uzumaki sent something. Sasuke was dashing towards him at incredible speed, his Mangekyo Sharingan activated. Amaterasu. Black flames lit up to life around the snake's body. As Orochimaru shrieked in pain as the jutsu started to burn, Orochimaru quickly opened his mouth wide as hands started to pop from it, and then a head came out soon. Sasuke quickly jumped up as he went through hand sign. Fire style, fireball jutsu, he said, as he released a massive fireball. The large ball sped towards Orochimaru, who was still busy trying to shed his skin, as everything exploded into a huge column of explosive flames. As Naruto appeared on Sasuke's right side, there was no sign of Orochimaru anywhere. Naruto then felt something as he tried to twist around, but his movements came at a halt when his feet were stopped by a crystal. Orochimaru flashed in front of him and delivered a brutal right punch to the gut. The punch caused Naruto to break out of the crystal and slide back. Orochimaru wasn't done his assault as he twisted around and flashed his feet straight through the air. He directed towards Naruto's temple, but it did not reach Naruto, as Sasuke appeared and caught his kick with his right hand, just like that. You're not the only one who can see future movements, Orochimaru, Sasuke said, as lightning currents burst from his hand with a cracking sound. Within a blink of an eye, Orochimaru's entire body was being electrified by the lightning. Sasuke didn't let up as Orochimaru felt his body go numb. He could only bite his tongue as the pain shot through his body. A testament of the amount of chakra Sasuke put behind the jutsu, Orochimaru's body started to let out steam. Naruto held out his right hand and summoned his blade as he swung it towards Orochimaru's head. Orochimaru raised his left hand as fast as possible to block the right swing, but Naruto's sword sliced his hand off and sliced off his head. Fire style dragon breath, Sasuke said, after jumping back as he released a massive fire made from a dragon head that engulfed Orochimaru's body into flames. You think we got him, Sasuke asked, but they got their answer quickly as crystal blades came shooting through the air towards them. Sasuke summoned Susanoo and shielded himself from projectiles. Naruto just burst into a murder of crows as the crows flew away as the projectiles collided in Susanoo, but they failed to break the defense. Orochimaru frowned looking at Susanoo. His experiments were not yet complete. He needed experiments more to get to that level, the Mangekyo Sharingan to use Susanoo power and the Amaterasu, unending burning flames. Besides that, his current body, however powerful, could not contain all of this power. Gurren was a good host, but the addition of the Sharingan was putting a good strain on her body. If you receive more damaging hits, you have to start looking for a good host soon. I underestimated you too, Orochimaru said. Then again, I did not expect to be fighting both of you. Well, arrogance has always been your greatest weapon, Naruto said, as he blasted off the tree branch, charging towards Orochimaru with his blade in his hand. Once he arrived, he brought it down a downward swing, as Orochimaru created a crystal shield to block Naruto's blade. He then placed his hand in front of Naruto's face. Many hidden shadow snakes, as multiple snakes burst towards Naruto's face. Naruto took in some air as he fired bullets of wind, as he ripped the snakes apart as he jumped away. The moment he landed, Orochimaru caught the distance between the two of them. He appeared right in front of Naruto, flashing his right foot towards Naruto's temple. Naruto raised his hand as the kick made contact with his hand firmly. Orochimaru had to jump back. The moment he landed, Sasuke was upon him, his Chidori in his right hand, as he drive the Chidori right through Orochimaru's gut. Orochimaru crumbled into dust. Sasuke frowned as he landed on the ground, as his eyes scanned the surrounding. It was ridiculous. He couldn't sense Sasuke, or couldn't see him from anywhere. He could not have run off, could he? If not, how could he hide from the two of them after all the damage he has taken? But suddenly there was a huge poof of smoke as a large snake appeared. As the large snake emerged. You brought me here to fight these brats, Manda said, as Orochimaru was standing on top of his head. They are proving to be a troublesome bunch, Orochimaru said. Just keep them busy for a couple of minutes and I will reward you afterwards. You know I always do as I promise. That's because you know I will eat you if you don't, said Manda, as Orochimaru merely chuckled. Naruto then stepped forward. Sasuke, Orochimaru wants to keep us busy with that thing. I don't have a general fondness of snakes, and as I said, this shouldn't take too long. Release Amaterasu and I will finish it. For such a large target, even if it's able to sense a buildup of power, it should be able to dodge the large flames. Sasuke focused on Giant Snake who was charging towards him. Sasuke leaped out of the way, as Sasuke activated Susanoo as the summon slammed into it. There was so much power in the strike that Sasuke was pushed back a distance from the strike, but the Susanoo held up, as Sasuke then turned his eyes towards the snake. Amaterasu, as Sasuke put as much chakra as he could so he could hit the entire snake's body. Orochimaru was nowhere near Manda as Manda shrieked as he tossed and turned violently. The movements were so violent he slammed into some trees along the way, tearing them to nothingness. Naruto did not worry, even though it was moving around a lot, he could still hit it with his next jutsu. His next jutsu was already screeching low there in his hand, spinning violently with power. As he jumped forward towards the snake, Rasengan Shuriken, he said as he thrust the jutsu forward. The jutsu teared through the air within seconds as it collided with Manda. Boom! A massive explosion went off the moment it collided with the snake. As visible wind blades tear right through the snake, Manda didn't last for a minute before disappearing. Naruto, Sasuke shouted, but it was too late. Orochimaru was right behind Naruto, the sword of Kusanagi driven right towards Naruto's back. Naruto shifted, but the blade pierced through his shoulder instead. Orochimaru burst out laughing. Finally, he landed a hit. Naruto flashed away from Orochimaru as he landed beside Sasuke. He looked at the bleeding wound. He considered using the Kyuubi chakra to heal it, but the more he used that, the more he shivered down his lifespan, so he was against it. He would allow this one to heal naturally. That was rather careless of you, Sasuke said to Naruto in a cold tone. Yes, Naruto said, not denying it. We should end it before you get more useful in his abilities. I will give you an opening to hit. I don't need to remind you that you need to act in a second. All Sasuke needed was Naruto to distract Orochimaru good enough for him to hit him, as Naruto then slowly made his way towards Orochimaru. As Naruto then blurred away, his blade was already held firmly on his right hand. As Orochimaru watched Sasuke disappear as well. I could disrupt whatever Sasuke is planning to do by going after him first, Orochimaru said, looking around, as Naruto was flashing around him. Try it, Naruto's voice echo around, as his voice sounded deadly cold. Orochimaru was speeding through the ground as Naruto appeared in front of him. In style, great wind breakthrough, Orochimaru said. It was like he was waiting for Naruto to appear in front of him. The wind jutsu blasted into the ground before slamming into Naruto. The moment it did, Naruto burst into an explosion of flames. Coupled with the gust of wind, the flames burned wildly for a second before dying down. Orochimaru quickly twirled around and sensed Naruto coming from behind him. Orochimaru quickly raised his own sword and blocked Naruto's, as sparks were flying everywhere. Orochimaru's neck then extended unhumanly as his fangs were baring to bit into Naruto's neck. Naruto raised up his hand as Orochimaru's face slammed into a shield made from pure wind. Orochimaru quickly retreated his head, but Naruto was already upon him with his feet held high as Orochimaru raised the defense, but Naruto drive a kick down that break Orochimaru through the tree branch. Orochimaru twisted twice in the air as he regained his balance. Before he could even land, Naruto was already above him, Rasengan charged in his hand. As Naruto ascended towards Orochimaru's head, Orochimaru slashed his sword at it. The jutsu never collided with his sword as it suddenly vanished, as Naruto flicked his wrist, as his sword sliced right through Orochimaru, but Orochimaru burst into a log. Orochimaru then appeared above Naruto's sword coming down Naruto's head. Naruto simply threw his sword over his shoulder, straight towards Orochimaru. Orochimaru sliced right through Naruto, but Naruto burst into crows, as Orochimaru tilted his head to make Naruto bleed past him. But Naruto then flashed behind him, holding on to his blade as Orochimaru felt something cold. Extended blade, Naruto said. The jutsu teared through Orochimaru's neck in a flash. Orochimaru's body slammed into the ground with great force. As he picked up himself and touched his neck, blood was seeping out. Before he could do anything, Naruto appeared and grabbed him by the face. He picked him up and lightning burst from his hand, shocking Orochimaru. Naruto then drove his body into the ground and boom. When Naruto made the distance, Orochimaru got up, as he started to laugh, as he burst out laughing even more. I never thought you'd actually catch me in an illusion, Naruto, Orochimaru said, especially with the Sharingan. This isn't a normal illusion though. Yes, it is a demonic illusion. The kind that the second Hokage created specifically for the Uchihas. What's the target? Eye contact, Naruto said. But my chakra need to be inserted into your body to mix with your senses. I did that in the first attack when I pierced through you with my jutsu. Then, what can it do? You're not moving to that. Orochimaru was cut off as an arrow teared through the left side of his face, creating a huge hole in it. Orochimaru blinked his one remaining eye, but he couldn't master any response, as he was just stunned. As his body started to fall down to the ground, Naruto spoke. Everything inches with the ability to think, to escape death fast enough. Uchihas don't need that nevertheless. As long as they program their Sharingan to rewrite reality, they can escape even death. But you're not an Uchiha, Orochimaru, Naruto said. Amaterasu, Sasuke said once more, as black flames engulfed Orochimaru. Naruto turned towards Sasuke. I was still talking. Sasuke shrugged. You never know with Orochimaru. As Sasuke drive his lightning sword right through Orochimaru's chest. You lied. Orochimaru wasn't in a genjutsu. Your chakra was moving inside his chakra system though. I didn't say he was. He just assumed he was. Why are you stabbing him with your sword? Naruto asks. If we don't make sure he stays down, he can burst into a large snake. At least lightning ensure that he doesn't move. He's still alive, he can regenerate. How do we kill him? Sasuke asks. Turn him to ash, Naruto said. Time skip, Konoha, Uzumaki compound. Seeing Mikoto walked in, it did not make Yujito feel happy, as the woman was holding her head high. The fact that she was carrying her child bothered her a lot, and the fact that the woman had no shame over it. She would not even take consolation that her relationship with Kushina has become strained over it. But with the days rolling one by one, Kushina was coming around. Yujiro sighed deeply as she was sitting at the front of the main house. Mikoto wasn't alone, she had Tsunade with her. It was rather strange seeing Tsunade in the compound. She once lived here, but she hasn't set foot since they moved in. What could be so important that made she come here? Yujiro, said Tsunade. You really look different from the kind of person you were when you were in Anvu. Have things changed that much? More or less, said Yujiro. But when you wear that mask, you just become a different person altogether. I'm sure if I was to return to that world, I would be the same Anvu I was back then. The kind of life is different now, no more covered mission. Just trying to make happiness. Tsunade nodded. There was nothing wrong with that. At least she could enjoy her life out here, not going on dangerous missions. It must be hard, trying to create that kind of happiness with what's around you, said Tsunade. Mikoto, who was silent, finally spoke. I think that message pointed to me, she said. Well, you haven't made things easy, and I can't say I enjoy life with you around. Yujiro said in a hardened tone. You know, Naruto, once he has come in tension with everything, the attention you used to give me would be diverted all to you and what you're carrying. He doesn't have a big heart, so his affections are just for a couple of people. Your entrance made me question things here, said Yujiro. Of course she knew that Naruto wouldn't told her to move out, but she wouldn't be loved. She wanted to be here because she wanted to be loved, not because Naruto valued the skills that she had to protect his mother. Mikoto just looked at the woman. For how long would she feel sorry for herself? Everyone was always looking at her with questioning gazes. Does she regret her pregnancy? Of course not. She was going to raise her child, and Naruto was going to be a part of her life whether Kushina or Yujiro liked it. She knew Naruto well, maybe much more than Yujiro, but she was going to teach him what is it to be a father and just how precious life could be. There could be no doubt he didn't value human life, but this child can show him how to value it even more. And she wouldn't regret one thing, as that made Mikoto happy. I really don't want to cause trouble for you, Yujiro, but I will not apologize, and I will not keep my distance away from Naruto. If you feel threatened, do something about it. However, you must not forget the kind of person you live with. But guys, it'll be ending this episode right here. If you want to see the next part of it or know what to do, like, subscribe, comment down below, and turn on the bell notifications they posted. Remember to share to all of your friends in your social media platform. And also, go ahead and check out the brand new episode of What If Naruto Was Osusuke King that posts on this channel. And go ahead and check out the new episode of What If Naruto Was Banished and Got a Supernatural Ability. And what if Aizuna Uchiha was Naruto's ancestor. But I'm all for now. See you guys tomorrow. Peace.